Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about how you pick your team in Blood Bowl 3 and what you need to do to set it up before you get into playing for the first time. So, you've got Blood Bowl 3, you started playing, but you want to get into knowing your team a little bit better. Here's a few little tips about what you should do with your team before you throw it into that first game. But most importantly, to learn with Blood Bowl 3, there is no right team, there is no wrong team. There are different tiers of teams, as in there are teams which are more rounded than other teams and detail. But the nice thing about Blood Bowl is on any day, any team can beat another, mainly thanks to those dice rolls. So let's get into picking the team and how you can go about the detail. So go into Blood Bowl 3 to start off with, and as you can see, this is nice and easy for where to go. You should go straight into your teams category. Now currently we have 12 teams to pick from, so Imperial Nobility, Orc, Black Orc and all the way through. What you want to do to start off with is pick a race that you want to play with. Any will do. Anyone can beat anyone else. You will find over time teams play better against other teams. You will play better against certain teams by the way you play. But in the end, there's no team that is absolutely the best team. There's no team that's absolutely the worst team, although Nurgle would have a pretty good go at it. So what you do to pick a team is literally click on the pick. What we're going to do is pick the human team here. A lot of people will start with humans. They're a good team to start with. If you're new to Blood Bowl, I recommend humans or orcs if you want to start a team. They're reasonably simple in terms of the skills, but there's an added level of complexity when you get in. We name our team, so we're going to name this the test team for playing. We'll try and spell that properly, and then we'll go into the team picking itself. You get the choice here of manually picking a team or choosing a template. Now, I always think manually picking the team is by far the best way. You're going to pick your own players yourself in detail. And as you can see, humans are average across the board. They suffer none of the disadvantages, but they also excel in nothing. Human teams are amongst the best. They're absolutely a well-rounded team that you can play with any side. So pick manual and then confirm your creation. So if you're really enjoying these videos, do hit the like and subscribe button. We'll keep doing more as we get into Blood Bowl and going into them. So, building a roster. First time you see this screen, it is a little bit scary for those of you that have never put a Blood Bowl roster together in the first place. So one of the things you want to firstly know is that up here in the top right is your team treasury. Every team at this stage starts with a team treasury of 1 million gold pieces. And you've got to buy everything out of your team with that. Later in further seasons and with tournaments, you'll see that there are custom builds. Often a tournament build will be 1.1 million, but we'll go to that another day. So you've got your entire roster that you've got to build out of 1 million. And this is where you can see at the bottom here is your remaining treasury. It's quite important to keep an eye on that. And up on the top right, it tells you the number of players. You must have 11 players to have a valid team. So that's really important. Now, one of the things you really got to think about when you're playing with certain teams is what kind of roster you want to make up. And the humans are a really good example. If we click here, this is the ogre. This is a big guy. As you can see, movement 5, he's slow. Strength 5, he's really strong. Agility and passing, we shouldn't be doing that with the ogre. And armor 10 plus. So basically, an ogre's really difficult to get off the pitch. They're really strong. They come with a whole heap of skills. They can throw teammates. They can smash opponents. They're a bit stupid. They have a tendency not to fall over. And of course, they have the bonehead skill, which means that they can literally on the turn do nothing if you roll a 1 before you start off with. So if you're starting with a roster that's got a big guy, you've got to make that choice of, do I have the big guy or do I not have the big guy? And that's an entirely preference thing. But what I would do before you start with any roster is make sure you understand the bit at the bottom here, which is staff. Apothecaries, cheerleaders, assistant coaches and dedicated fans. Let's just quickly run through what they do. So an apothecary, That allows a player to be a second roll to be done on a player that gets a casualty or KO, but only once a game. So as you start to level up your players, an apothecary becomes great, because if you get that skilled up player who you spent 2 weeks getting all the levels and the detail and worked out, and then someone goes and kills them, you're going to want to try and bring them back. But if you're just playing and having a go, don't spend the 50k on the apothecary. Cheerleaders and assistant coaches both help with bonuses on kick-off events. So they're nice to have if you've got a spare bit of cash, but absolutely not needed in any way at all. Dedicated fans. Now, dedicated fans link to the number of fans that turn up for your games. The number of fans that turn up to your game influences the money you get at the end of it. If you're playing in a league, actually, dedicated fans is really important, particularly for teams that struggle to score lots, because scoring more will also get you more money. So having a couple of extra dedicated fans will absolutely pay itself back after 1 or 2 games. You start with 1 dedicated fan for free, and effectively, if you've got any spare money at the end of building your roster, and you're at 980,000 out of the million, stick the rest in dedicated fans. You'll thank yourself after a couple of games. And then the last and probably most important bit about the staff is rerolls. Rerolls are where you can reroll any dice or set of dice that you roll within the game. So when you're rolling block dice with that ogre, he's rolling 2 block dice and he rolls a double skull. You don't want him to fall over. You can use the reroll. When your blitzer is dodging out to make that touchdown and he rolls the 1, and we know that will happen, then you can absolutely re-roll that. You can use as many re-rolls in a turn now as you want to, but it is limited by the number of re-rolls you have. And obviously the skills influence that as well. If you've got a skill that re-rolls a dice, you can't then re-roll that dice again. So re-rolls are really important. Don't forget to put them into your build. And for that reason, I would suggest with always on Blood Bowl 3, starting off with popping a couple of re-rolls, if that's what you're looking for, into your build to start off with. So you can see we're already at 100,000 purchase costs, remaining treasury of 900, and no players, but we do have 2 re-rolls. Some people would prefer 3. If you're really, really crazy, like 4. And if you really want to squeeze everything into a roster, maybe 1. But definitely, if you're a beginner player, absolutely start with no less than 2 re-rolls. So in this case, we've got the 2 re-rolls. We've then got the players. So have a look at each of the players, and what you've got here over each player is, if you hover over them, you can see the stats on the left hand side. So the blitzer here, movement 7, that's great. Strength 3, agility 3, passing 4, pretty good. Catcher, he can move 8, that's wonderful. Downside of the catcher, he's got a strength 2. But if you click on the catcher, he does come with catch and dodge. So dodge is a defensive skill and an ability to roll away, and catch allows you to re-roll. Now if you're going to have a catcher and catching the ball, probably want to think about a thrower and someone to throw with you. And in this case, the thrower's got pass and sure hands. Now sure hands, for those who've played Blood Bowl for a long time, will know is the worst and the best skill. It allows you to re-roll picking up the ball. Chances are, if you drop the ball on the first time, Nuffle will say you're going to drop the ball on the second time. But actually, sure hands is a really handy skill to have, particularly when you don't want to drop the ball off that kickoff and ruin turn 1. Then you've got your linemen. Your linemen will always be your 0 to 12 or 0 to 16 players that you'll see. These are your general bodies. They fill out your roster. A lot of the starting rosters will come with linemen with no skills, just a plain set and detail through. The human linemen are pretty good as an average place, 6, 3, 3, 4 with a good armour. They're only 50,000. You can stick a load in. So what am I going to do to build this roster up? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of blitzers, because absolutely blitzers are wonderful. They come with block, which is a great first skill. You can get dodge on them as well. Really good place to go. I'm going to go with 1 catcher, I'm going to go with thrower, and I'm going to go with the ogre. So that's me up to 5 players already, and you can see I've only got 445,000 left. So actually, let's do a quick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's get a 6 lineman in, and actually you can see there I've got 145,000 left to play with, and I've got 11 players in. I could go for more than 11 players and have a bench. There's always the halfling, which I can look at as a fouling player or something to throw. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a lineman down. I'm going to put another blitzer in. I'm going to do that again, actually. I want to go with the 4 blitzer lineup for the humans, which gives me all sorts of fun to start off with. And then in this case, I'm actually going to go with the 12th player. I'm going to add in a lineman to start off with, and I'm going to save for the second catcher. In this case, so I'm going to go with 12 players. That gives me 25k left. I'm going to put 1 and 2 dedicated fans, and then I'm going to have 1 assistant coach to try and help with getting a reroll. And it's as simple as that. That's how you build a roster. Now, a really important part about roster building is looking at the formations. If we go back to this and we purchase, and this is quite important, you need to purchase your team. This will lock in the purchase and detail it through. So you recruit all of that, it locks in your information, and then you've got your team set and ready to go. Now that's a test team. You can put them on the pitch straight away. A really important thing, I think, is to go in and sort out formations. So you've got formations which are offensive and defensive. This effectively is your starting lineup off the kick. Now what you find is Blood Bowl 3 will automatically set it up on how it thinks. So in this case, my 12th player over in the bench is a lineman, which is great because that's the last player I kicked on. But let's have a look. Where is my ogre? For some reason, on an offensive formation, my ogre is way out to one side. And what you can do is literally just click on these players and move them around and get your formation set up for how you want to do. So you can set your players up, move them around, detail them on. And what you've got here is the basic guide which tells you 11 players must be on the pitch. You've got to have 3 on the line of scrimmage and 2 on your wide zone. And if you don't save it, it'll give you that warning. Same for defensive. Again, why would you have the ogre out? And what a great name he's got, Fatal Fart. The ogre, I'm going to bring the ogre back into the centre, set the formation up, give it a name and save it. These are really great. If you really want advice on what a formation should look like in detail, by far the best place to look is you go to the Bonehead podcast on YouTube. There are a whole set of formation videos there which will talk to you about all sorts of different formations and individual formations for teams. You'll also find a load of roster advice there for what good starting rosters will look like in development and detail. But at this stage, just get the roster sorted, get your formation sorted and save it. That will mean when you start your first game, you won't be changing the players around on the line of scrimmage for 2 minutes, and you can get straight into playing. And if you watch multiple opponents do that, you'll be watching it going, I really wish they sorted their formation. In reality, you will have to do it as the game goes on, because no Blood Bowl formation will survive the first set of smashes, and sooner or later you'll be down to 8 players and you'll have to work out a setup around that. But what we've got there is the simple way of how to set it up. So hopefully that's been really useful for you looking at how to set up your first game of Blood Bowl and set up the team. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit on the like and subscribe button. We'll see you more for more Blood Bowl tips soon. Enjoy everything and have a great game.